Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Hello Emma, I'm glad you're here. We're going to be talking about the Idaho 4 again. Just some things that have come up lately. Before I really get into that though, I want to take a minute and say it's not a good day here. I was going to do this video last night, but then I decided to do an experiment and wait until today to do the video. We had crazy thunderstorms last night, so I woke up quite a few times. But when I woke up this morning, I woke up to a message from my oldest son in Massachusetts, and his sister-in-law, his wife's brother's wife, passed away. She is about my son's age, so very sad. They have 5 kids, and she went in for routine surgery and she passed away. So if I seem a little off today, that's why. Because it's a tragic situation, and I'm a fixer when it comes to my family, and all I want to do is make it okay, and there's absolutely nothing I can do. So I would just like to ask all of you to please keep them in your prayers. It's so close to Christmas, and we want to focus on making this the most normal Christmas it can be for those kids. 3 of them are my daughter-in-law's brother's kids, and 2 of them are the sister-in-law's kids. And now they're probably going to be split up. I'm assuming that the daughter-in-law or the sister-in-law's kids will go to their dad. So on top of losing the mom, stepmom, the step siblings are going to be separated. And my daughter-in-law's brother, he died in the last few years from cancer. Now this and the holidays, and it's a lot for them. And I really feel for these kids. So just know if you, anytime between now and close to Christmas, if you donate anything to the channel, like super thanks, super chat, super sticker, CashApp, Venmo, PayPal, whatever, it's probably going to go towards trying to make this resemble something like a normal Christmas for those kids. Okay. Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. Like I said, prayers, for the Eastman family. They really need it right now. Okay. Back to why we're here. So, the Idaho 4. There's been a lot going on that I want to address in this video. Some of it is just, it makes me angry, and some of it is interesting. So, to start off, let's go over the latest update from the Moscow PD. Now, they have not done another actual press conference, which it seems kind of weird. I'm glad they're doing the press releases, but at the same time, it doesn't give people a chance to ask the questions that we want answered. And that's probably strategic because I feel like they know what we want to know and we can't know. So that may be why they're doing it this way. My eyes are not great today, as you can imagine. So I'm going to read it off my phone while it's up here for you guys. This came out on the 9th, so yesterday. The Moscow Police Department is providing the following information to update the public on the known facts surrounding the 4 murders that occurred November 13th in Moscow, Idaho. And just to add on to that, for one, it's crazy that we are going into 1 month already since this happened. Sometimes it feels like it's been longer, but honestly, it feels like it's been so much shorter. And this is graduation weekend at University of Idaho, and Kaylee should have been graduating. So keep that family, well, all the families in your thoughts and prayers, because I'm sure this is really hitting them this weekend, that they should have been going there to watch her graduate from college. Okay, it says investigators have been monitoring online activity related to this ongoing and active case and are aware of the large amount of rumors and misinformation being shared, as well as harassing and threatening behavior toward potentially involved parties. Anyone engaging in threats or harassment, whether in person, online, or otherwise, needs to understand that they could be subjecting themselves to criminal charges. Moscow Police Department cautions the public not to rely on rumors and remains committed to keeping the public informed. We urge reliance on official channels for accurate information. Update on the white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Investigators would like to thank the community and public for recent information provided about the vehicle and the spike in tips. The FBI is prioritizing and vetting those tips for us to use in the investigation. The public is asked to continue to use the tip line to report any information about the vehicle. Calling in tips. Please be aware that this new call process takes patience on behalf of the caller, and there are some prompts to follow. This is a national FBI tip line, and it is important to get all the way through the prompts to reach the right agent to report information. Remember, your tip may be the key to solving this case. As previously reported, detectives are interested in speaking with the occupants of a white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra with an unknown license plate. Tips and leads led investigators to look for additional information about this vehicle being in the immediate area of the King Road residence during the early morning hours of November 13th. Investigators believe the occupants of this vehicle may have critical information to share regarding this case. So I think it's important to note here that they are not saying whoever's in this car did this. They're not saying that they didn't, but they just want to talk to them to get information. Did they see anything unusual when they were in the area at that time? Hello, Ramblin' Rome. Be careful while you're driving. Don't try to look at the screen. If you know or own a vehicle matching this description or know anyone who may have been driving this vehicle on the days preceding or the day of the murders, please forward the information to the tip line. And there we see the car. I've got other pictures of it as well. Still, at this time, no suspect has been identified, and only vetted information that does not hinder the investigation will be released to the public. I'm kind of just skimming over what we already know. The timeline. Now, this is new. Investigators have determined that Ethan Chapin and Xana Carnodal were seen at the Sigma Chi house on the University of Idaho campus at 735 Nez Perce Drive. At approximately 1:45 a.m., Ethan and Xana are believed to have returned to their residence at 1122 King Road. It was previously reported that Ethan resided at the home. However, it has been determined he was only visiting. Now, I'm going to get into what's new about that in a minute. Okay, that's all stuff we know. Like I said, I'm not going to read the whole thing because a lot of it is just a repeat of stuff that we've already heard. At this time in the investigation, detectives do not believe the following are involved in this crime: 2 surviving roommates, male in the grub truck surveillance video, private party driver who took Kaylee and Maddie home on November 13th, the male Kaylee and Maddie called numerous times during the early morning hours of November 13th, any individual at the residence when 911 was called, or the individual on the lease who moved out of the residence before the school year started and was not present at the time of the incident. Go ahead and put this one up. All of that. Okay, let's get down here to, it says rumor control at the bottom. There has been extensive media interest regarding an incident at Taylor Avenue and Band Field on November 13th, 2022 at 3:01 a.m. This incident was an alcohol offense which was addressed by the on-scene officer. This call is not related to the murder investigations. For further details regarding this incident, a Moscow Police Department public records request can be submitted referencing incident number 22-MO9896. We have not changed our belief that the murders were a targeted attack. However, investigators have not concluded if the target was the residence or its occupants. There have been media questions about a September 12, 2022 incident regarding an argument between a group of people walking on the University of Idaho bike path and a cyclist. It was reported that during the confrontation, the cyclist displayed a folding knife. Both parties dispersed and there were no injuries. The cyclist turned himself into the police. The case was investigated and misdemeanor charges were referred to the Moscow City Attorney's Office. There is no connection between the individual involved in this incident and the current murder investigation. There have been media questions regarding a February 2022 death on Baker Street. The Latah County Coroner's Office has confirmed the death was due to an overdose. This case is not related to the ongoing murder investigation. There have been online reports of a red Mustang on South Deacon Street being processed as part of the murder investigation. This information is not accurate and the vehicle is not connected to this incident. The identity of the 911 caller has not been released. There have been numerous media inquiries about the 1999 double stabbing in Pullman, Washington, and the 2021 double stabbing with one death in Salem, Oregon. While these cases share similarities with the King Street homicides, there does not appear to be any evidence to support the cases are related. And the fifth and final page, this one was the long one. Detectives are aware of a Latah County Sheriff's Office incident of the report of a skinned dog, but do not believe there is any evidence to support it is related to this incident. Contact Latah County Sheriff's Office for further details. Detectives are also aware of a Moscow police incident of the report of deceased animals left on a resident's property. This was determined to be wildlife activity and not related to the murders. Online reports of the victims being tied and gagged are not accurate. And that is really all that I feel like we need to talk about on that. And we are going to move on to this. It could or could not be connected. They haven't said. It was weird, for sure. This guy was arrested on the 7th. I'm sure you've heard about it. It's believed that he, at some point, may have been a peeping Tom. His name is James Curtis Leonard. And what was interesting is when he was arrested and brought in, we all noticed he has this bandage on his arm, right? So immediately we're like, oh, holy crap, could it be? Could it be? Is it this guy? Did he hurt himself when, holy crap, we all went crazy, right? So if you guys have followed my channel, if you followed the Kylie Rodney case, not just with me, but with anybody, there's a lot of weird things around that case with law enforcement, Truckee, the interconnections of people around the incident. Hold on to your hats, guys. That guy, this is his lawyer. Do you recognize her? That's the coroner. If you remember in one of my earlier videos, I told you that she is a registered nurse, she's an attorney, and she has a degree in political science. She is representing this guy, which seems kind of bizarre to me. Well, if you think that's a little bit odd, maybe a conflict of interest type situation, take a look at this picture from Thanksgiving last year, 2021. The Moscow Police Department is so thankful to serve such an amazing community. Some of our officers couldn't be home with their families this year, but Amber McCain and James Leonard, yes, James Leonard, that James Leonard, went out of their way to bring the whole Thanksgiving spread to our department. We are so grateful for this community and also to the other first responders and service members who are spending the holidays away from their families. The MPD hopes you have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. And then I have an arrow pointing at James Leonard. So I just thought it was worth mentioning. We're going to take a look at what did this guy do to get himself arrested. Well, it wasn't for peeping this time. And he has quite a past, you guys. He has quite a past. Let me see here. I think we are on. Sorry, having to look at my phone. It's just been such a crap day, you guys. So thank you for bearing with me. I really do appreciate it. 2, 3. There we go. Okay. So this is the affidavit for his arrest. And he is being charged with domestic battery with traumatic injury, aggravated assault, attempted strangulation, and injury to a child, which is a felony. Without a warrant on December 7th, 2022, and your affiant asks that a judge, after your affiant lays a complaint before him, determine whether there is probable cause to believe that said offense has been committed and that the defendant has committed it. And then they go on to give us the key facts. This happened in Moscow on December 6th at around 23:47 hours. I responded to a physical domestic dispute at addresses redacted with Corporal Green and Officer Waters. As units were en route, dispatch advised an intoxicated husband punched his wife in the head and struck his daughter. The reporting party, later identified as redacted, said that her husband, later identified as James Leonard, was actively cutting himself with a knife. Several more people called in regarding the same incident and said James was now hitting everyone. Redacted. Told dispatch James was following her around the house as she was on the phone. I arrived on scene with Corporal Green, and as I approached the house, Blank walked inside and was still on the phone with dispatch. I could see Blank had blood on her nose and mouth and probable cause order. Oh, sorry. And multiple areas of her head were covered in blood. She also had blood on her vest, and a large part of her left hand was covered in blood. I quickly asked who else was in the house. She said her 3 kids and a grandchild were still inside the house, and James was in the east bedroom, still armed with a knife. Once she was safely away outside the house, I went to the front door with Corporal Green. Based on the report of James acting violently while armed with a knife, and based on her being covered in blood, I drew my pistol and entered the house. I loudly identified myself as Moscow police and told James to come out of the bedroom with his hands up. After a short time, James walked out of the bedroom. I could see blood on his face and hands up. And head. A long bloody cut on his left forearm and blood on both hands. James followed my instructions and I placed him into handcuffs, which were double locked and checked for proper fit. At no point during my contact did he complain of pain from the handcuffs. I frisked James for weapons and found 2 knives in his right pants pocket. I removed both of those and found 2 more hard objects in the pocket. I removed a lighter and a commercially packaged marijuana joint from his pocket. I walked James outside where Officer Waters advised him of his Miranda rights, and James said he understood. Officer Waters stood with James, and I contacted blank, who was clearly upset and very scared. I asked her to briefly tell me what happened, and she explained the following. James was heavily intoxicated, having drank around half a bottle of gin during the evening. He had been working on his truck in the driveway and was in the living room on the phone with the internet company. James walked into the living room, saw her on her phone, and began accusing her of cheating on him. James slammed his phone on the ground and began screaming at her children and went in the living room at this time. Blank boyfriend blank and her child, 1 year old, oh my, were also in the living room. After yelling at blank, James began yelling at others in the living room. After a period of time, James made a statement implying he was going to kill himself and walked into the bedroom. Blank went into the bedroom to check on James, who had a history of cutting himself, and she found James actively cutting his wrist with his green automatic knife. Blank sat down next to James, who turned and struck her in the head with his closed fist. James's knife was in the closed fist when he struck her, which reinforced James's hand as he struck. James then began to choke her from behind, wrapping his arms around her throat and applying pressure with a chokehold. Blank said she had difficulty breathing, and for a second she could not breathe. Blank entered the room at this time, and she tried to hit James with a lamp to prevent him from strangling blank. Boyfriend entered the room, and while holding blank and pulled blank out of the incident. Blank later told me he saw James trying to choke blank when he took blank out of the room. Around this time, MPD medics arrived on scene and treated James and blank for their injuries. I photographed injuries, and in addition to the blood on her face, I saw several swollen bumps on her forehead. I saw red marks across her neck, which were consistent with being choked. I saw red marks on both sides of her face and chin, which were consistent with being struck. I was unable to see the bite mark on her hand due to the blood. Check comments here. Yes. Thank you, Flutterbear. Okay. So this guy he's a real prize, right? He definitely has the potential to do very bad things. Officer Waters later interviewed both Blank and gave me additional details about the altercation. After Blank entered the bedroom and hit James with the lamp, Blank was able to free herself from James's chokehold. James pushed back on the bed, climbed on top of her, and continued striking her in the head with his fist. As Blank was trying to fight James off, he bit her on the hand, drawing blood. He then pinned her down on the bed by pressing his forearm against her throat, and Blank told Officer Waters she was barely able to breathe. Blank told him to stop. James grabbed Blank, threw her against a dresser, and began striking her with his closed fist. I later spoke with Blank, and she told me James punched her with a closed fist in the face, head, and arms around 12 times. James also kicked her and pulled her by the hair. Blank complained of severe pain all over her body, especially her left arm and side where she was thrown against the dresser. Blank was unable to recount how she got away from James or how she made it to her room where Corporal Green found her hiding under a chair. Blank was very lethargic during her conversation, and during her conversation with Corporal Green, she appeared to be suffering from a concussion based on her headache, fatigue, impaired memory, and slow speech. Corporal Green photographed Blank's injuries. Officer Waters told me that as James was beating Blank, Blank was able to get up and grab her phone. She called 911 and tried to separate Blank and James. James shoved Blank away and tried to grab Blank again, but she ran out of the room. As Blank was on the phone with dispatch, James followed her through the house, holding the knife in his hand. James told her multiple times to hang up the phone, but she refused. James said something to the effect of, "If you love me, you will hang up the phone," but Blank refused. Officer Waters asked Blank if she believed James was going to stab her with a knife. She told Officer Waters she had no idea what James was going to do. She said she was trying to listen to the dispatcher, locate her children, and keep an eye on James. She said while she was on the phone with dispatch, James made the large cut on his left arm with the knife and yelled that Blank cut him and he needed help. I photographed a trail of blood drops which led from the east bedroom to the west side of the house. This was consistent with Blank's account of being followed by James with a knife. Okay, don't need to read that part. I asked James what happened, and he told me the gas tank on his truck fell on top of him. Okay. Which is how he got the large cut on his arm. I pulled out the green automatic knife, which I took off his person, opened the knife, and showed him the blood on the tip. James said the blood was his, but denied cutting himself. James also denied striking Blank, saying the only incident had occurred was Blank arguing with Blank. James told me he just went to bed and he could not handle Blank arguing with Blank. His answers to my questions did not make much sense and were very contradictory to the similar stories being told by all other involved parties. James finally invoked his Miranda rights, and I told James he was under arrest. That's insane, you guys. That is absolutely insane. So, I don't know what to think about this guy, but what do you think about the coroner being his attorney? It's very strange. Sorry, I gotta take a drink. This, if you guys don't know, this is Ski. It's a soda from where I used to live. They bottled it in the little county where we lived, and I can't get it here. You can't get it in a lot of places. And my best friend Steph sent me a Christmas package yesterday, complete surprise, and it had some in it. So, Mike, no real update. You're talking about Kara Cox. I am going to be doing a video. Aqua Chigger, another YouTuber, went out there to search for her, and he filmed some videos, and he gave me permission to use them in an update video to show you what the area is like and what he didn't find. But no real update. I have actually I talked to the boyfriend, Adam, trying to get information, and it was a no-go. He pretty much just wanted to go on a date. Okay, back to Idaho. So the updated timeline. This is what they're telling us now. Hey, Steph. She's the one that got me the ski. As for Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle, investigators have determined they were both seen at the Sigma Chi house on the University of Idaho campus. It is now believed they were there from approximately 9 p.m. on November 12th to 1:40 a.m. on November 13th. Although detectives continue investigating what happened during that time frame, Ethan and Xana are believed to have arrived back at the 1122 King Road residence around 1:45 a.m. Ethan did not live at the home but was visiting. So this is bizarre because originally the timeline has always been they went to the party from 8 to 9, and then we had the gap. We didn't know what happened between 9 and 1:45. We heard from Xana's dad that she called him around midnight, and he was under the impression that she was home hanging out with Ethan at the house, I think watching movies or something. And Xana's mom said she thought that they had gone out to a bar. Then they come out now and they're saying from 9 until 1:40 they were at the Sig Chi house. Why I find this weird is, how could it have taken this long for them to figure that out? You mean to tell me that all this time, nearly a month, and there was nobody coming forward saying, oh no, they were at this party till such and such. It was a fraternity party. Ethan's a part of that fraternity, so they know him. You mean to tell me there wasn't anybody at this party, no fraternity brother or anything that could come forward and say, no, they didn't leave at 9. They were actually here till whatever time? It just seems very strange to me. It's like everybody starts questioning the gap, the almost 5-hour gap, and then suddenly the timeline changes. But they still want information about what happened during that time frame. So were they at the party or not? You can't say that they were there from 9 until 1:40, but you still want to know what happened in that time frame. Now I get, because I've been questioning all along, when I thought they only stayed an hour, I was like, why would they leave after an hour? Was there a argument, some sort of confrontation? Did somebody or something make them feel uncomfortable? Why did they leave so quickly? Is that what they're wanting to know? Like, what happened in that time frame at the party? It's just odd to me that, we've been looking for information on this time gap. The police have been looking for information on this time gap, and now magically, nope, they were at the party the whole time. So I just found that a little bit weird. I don't know about you guys, but it's kind of like the whole, it was targeted, it wasn't targeted, it's the house, it's the residence, it's not targeted, well, we're not sure. It's just more of the, what is it? More of the make it make sense from this investigation. Now I'm going to share, this is a video that the police chief released, and to me it feels like it was kind of in lieu of doing an actual press conference. Like, he wanted to come out and say what he wanted to say, but he didn't want to be questioned. It was very controlled. Like, the questions he was asked were obviously what he wanted to be asked by the interviewer, whoever's filming it, which is probably somebody else from Moscow PD. But it was just odd to me because it's not what you normally see in these cases. They actually put it out on YouTube. It's not like an interview he did with a news channel or anything like that. Like, they created this video and put it out on YouTube for us to watch and share for them. And like I said, it felt like it was almost so he didn't have to do a press conference. So we'll take a look at that real quick. And I am going to take another drink and try to get my voice to stay with me.
First, start by explaining why this search for this white vehicle.
So we have information of a white vehicle that was in the area either during the time frame of the homicide or around the time frame of the homicide, and we are just wanting to talk to the individuals who are in that vehicle. They may have some valuable information for us, and we're looking for a 2011 to a 2013 Hyundai Elantra. So any assistance you can give us, anybody that owns one, anybody that knows of someone who owns one or may have been driving one, if you could get a hold of us through our tip line or call us directly, we'd appreciate that.
This body cam image and the white car, is this the white car investigators are looking for?
So the body cam image that is out there from an officer who was on a call with an alcohol offense does have a white vehicle in it. This is not the vehicle that we are looking for. So we wanted to clear that up with all news media.
And finally, the tip line, the process. What do you want to tell the public about that?
So the tip line now will go to an FBI call center. We've done that because we started receiving many tips, and that call center can categorize those, and they can send those tips back to investigators so we can follow up and make sure that we continue with our investigation.
All right, so like I said, just a little weird. I heard somebody compare it to how in Russia Putin puts out like these state news clips, and it's like, this is what I'm going to say, this is how it is, and you don't get to ask me any questions. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's a bit odd. This is the press release that they issued about the car. It's pretty much what I read to you earlier from the most recent press release from the 9th. This was put out on the 7th. These are the stock pictures of the car that they have released. You know, there's nothing that really stands out about this vehicle, and they don't know the license tag. So I know they said there's been a spike in tips, and I can only imagine. I mean, it's a college town. It's probably, I mean, it's a 2011 to a 2013, so it could be a popular car for that age group. I don't know, but I'm sure that everybody that owns one or sees one, everybody's calling it in. I've seen people looking at Craigslist for people that are selling that type of car in the area, all kinds of things. So I'm sure that they've got an overwhelming amount of tips. Hopefully one of them will pan out. This is a car that was seen in the surveillance footage. And you can see on here, it says, seeking this car seen around the same time as the murders could be for elimination, witness, or suspect. That is false. That is false. The police have come out and said that this car that was seen on the body cam footage is not the car. This is not the car. So just want to clear that up, because they've really made a point about misinformation and rumors and things like that. You know, on this channel, yes, do we speculate? Yes. But we try to stay rooted in fact, right? I don't like to jump on the rumor train just for clicks and views. I don't play that game. So I just want to get out as much factual information as I can for you. So they came out and they said that the car on the body cam footage, not the car they're looking for. I thought this was interesting regarding the car. They're looking for it at the Canadian border. So apparently the U.S.-Canadian border is roughly 190 miles north of Moscow, Idaho, and they have been put on alert to be watching for the vehicle. So it kind of makes you wonder, do they think this person has potentially fled the area? Like I said, they don't know. They haven't specifically said they think that this person is involved, but they could be a potential witness or whatever. With it being the holiday break, I've talked about it before. With the murders happening at Thanksgiving, a person can just leave and it's not going to be notable. It's not going to seem odd or out of character because it's break. And then they told them because of the murders, they had the option to continue online. So a lot of them didn't come back, and that's not going to seem unusual. Well, if they leave now, we're coming up on the end of the semester. Like I said, it's graduation weekend. Christmas is coming. So this person could live anywhere if it's a student. So I guess it's a good thing they're watching the border. I don't know that somebody is making a run for Canada, but they are really putting out like all the resources, it sounds like. Okay, so I'm going to show the video and then we're going to talk about it.
News on the scene in Moscow, Idaho, with new reaction from the Idaho police chief as authorities remove personal belongings from the house where the grisly quadruple murder happened more than 3 weeks ago. Alexis McAdams just spoke with him. She is live with us now in Moscow. Alexis, good afternoon.
Trace, good afternoon. Yeah, we just talked to the police chief who actually, because it's a small department, had to book this U-Haul himself, bring it out here, and help these investigators load dozens, and I mean dozens of boxes full of the belongings of these girls into that truck. Now their plan is to give it back to the family. This was an emotional time for those investigators too, Trace, because inside of that house behind me here in Moscow, Idaho, this was a horrible crime scene, we were told by sources and investigators. So for them to have to go back in there now when it's still a crime scene that's wrapped by tape here, there was still a lot to process. Last time they were in there and really had a lot of investigating going on was quite a few days ago. To see the chief back out here on the ground by himself, we had some answers for him. We were able to get some questions rather for him in, and this was his answer. Listen. What you guys went in there to do?
Yeah, we just went in to gather the belongings, and we're just trying to get stuff back to the family so that they can have some closure.
Okay. What did you guys kind of take out? Was it specific things the family wanted?
Some of the things that the family wanted, and then just other belongings.
And we just learned some new information too, Trace, that we were trying to nail down on this timeline of where the victims were. The fraternity house, Sigma Chi, that Ethan was a fraternity member at, is just about 200 steps from where I'm standing right now. So there was a 4 to 5 hour time gap that investigators were trying to figure out where Ethan and his girlfriend Xana were. We were now told by investigators just a few hours ago that they believe those two were at the fraternity party the entire night. So that does close up a gap. And the police chief has told me they have more information than people think and are on the right track. Trace?
When they say information, Alexis, I'm curious about that. Do they believe they're going to come out with something in the near future? Because the parents are getting awfully frustrated.
Yeah, parents are frustrated, and the police chief talked right directly to Xana's dad, who's been the most outspoken, Trace, about that lack of information. He says it's done because they want this, Trace, to get to trial, and they don't want anybody to know anything, including the killer, to know anything that they have. So when I asked if they could at least talk more about the murder weapon, could they say it was a guy or a girl? Did the person leave on foot? They said they're not going to say anything because they don't want the killer to know what they have. So that's why they don't release it, but they said they have a lot of information. So that's hopeful.
Yeah, it is hopeful. Alexis McAdams, good stuff as always. Thank you.
All right, so this is one. Let me first say, remember how emotional I got when they towed the cars away? This one really got me. I mean, you think about it, you see them taking out like a suitcase, and I think, oh, they should have been packing that suitcase to go home for the holidays. I see the body pillow, somebody laid next to that and probably snuggled that body pillow at night to sleep, and the bag of shoes, and just such normal college things, right? That are not going to be used anymore, but will absolutely mean the world to their families. Now, that being said, this is kind of the rub here, right? It was very important for the chief to be a part of getting those items back to the families. And he kind of looks like Santa Claus, and you can tell that he's a really loving guy. And I know he's trying to keep the families satisfied. And I know the families want this stuff back, obviously. However, it's still a crime scene. They have not released it yet. The crime scene tape is still up. It's still being guarded 24/7. And I know they said the things that they took out to give to the families are not like vital to the investigation or whatever. I was always taught the crime scene is the entirety, right? Like, to keep it pristine, everything has to be there. Now, obviously, you know, if there's a body involved or whatever, it's going to be removed. But everything has the potential to be something in that crime scene. So, are they saying like, oh, we just took stuff out that didn't have blood on it or whatever? It was just weird to me. Like I said, I get it that you want to help these parents, you want to get this stuff to them, but at the same time, you're tampering, if you will, with the crime scene. You're disrupting it. It's no longer pristine. It's no longer as it was. So I found it a little odd. I mean, I'm sure at this point they've collected everything that needs to be collected, and Boomer Sooner, Ramblin' Rome, have a good day. Wherever you are, have a good day. Be safe. So what if it did have DNA on it? What if it somehow did have trace evidence? Because when you enter a scene, I was always taught, when you enter, you bring something with you, and when you exit, you take something with you, which, you know, we're losing hair, we're losing skin cells, you know, touch DNA, things like that, fibers, whatever. We're bringing that in, and then when we leave a place, a part of that place is coming with us. If you come to my house, I guarantee you're going to leave with dog hair. Just for example, you'll probably leave with some of my hair. But I don't know. Was it too soon to remove the belongings? I don't know. I don't know. And like Steph, yeah, he and I think all of the Moscow PD are overwhelmed because this is a big case, and they haven't had a homicide in years, and they don't deal with this. But the FBI and Idaho State Police are involved, and I know Moscow is the lead, but if you've got experienced personnel saying, hey, don't release it, you need to listen. So, I mean, apparently somebody decided whatever they took wasn't needed. I don't know. It's just frustrating because I don't want to see this investigation get messed up. And some of the things that they do, you just wonder, was that a misstep? Are they going to go back in like a week or two and be like, damn, we shouldn't have given them that? I don't know. Hopefully not. Now we're going to talk about Kaylee's parents. For starters, we haven't heard from them since their last big bombshells, you know, in the interviews. They've been quiet, and I am okay with that. I got where they're coming from. Totally feel for this family. Love the family. I feel like I would be the same way as them. I would be frustrated and angry, and I'm just impatient by nature. I want things done. I want answers now. And that's not going to happen here. Not going to happen for them, for us, for law enforcement, for anybody, unfortunately. They are hiring a lawyer and a private investigator. We talked about the PI before, how, could it be a good thing? Could it be a bad thing? And I still stand by what I said. It depends on the private investigator. If you hi, Linda, I'm sorry you've been sick. I hope you feel better. If you get a private investigator that is going to go in there and disrupt things and try to take over, no, that's not going to be a good thing. If you get an investigator that goes in there and is cooperative, that is a fresh set of eyes on the case, that is maybe looking at angles that law enforcement haven't, you get somebody that can talk to people. Because like I mentioned in one of my other videos, sometimes people will talk to a PI before they'll talk to the police. The PI cannot arrest them. The PI is not under the same rules and regulations as law enforcement. So thank you, Alma. I appreciate that. So sometimes people are just more comfortable because they know, like, what they say, they're not going to get arrested. It can be kept confidential. Things like that. So is a PI a bad thing? Not necessarily, but it depends on the type of PI, the personality. Like I said, you don't want somebody in there that's like, oh, I'm going to solve this. I don't need the police. No. You know the type I'm talking about. You want somebody that can kind of, like I said before, complement the investigation, work alongside them, share information, valuable information with the police, and things like that. The attorney, they're hiring an attorney basically because they want to force law enforcement into giving them information. I don't even know if that's a thing. I don't know that law enforcement can be forced to give them information that is part of this ongoing investigation that could potentially jeopardize things down the road. I don't know. I do believe that the attorney is probably why they're quiet now. I feel like the attorney probably told them they're getting really close to saying too much. If they haven't already said too much, they are walking a fine line. And maybe an attorney has kind of reeled them in and explained, like, this is how it goes. And kind of told them what I've been saying, we have to leave some guilt knowledge out there that nobody knows except for the offender and law enforcement. It has to be done. Does it suck? Yes. As a parent, would I want to know everything? Yes. But I understand they're not looking at right now. Well, they are. But they're also looking down the road. If we catch this guy, we want to have an airtight case. We want to take him to court. We want to prosecute. And we want to win. Because we want to lock this guy up. And in order to do that, they have to keep some information from the families, from the public, from all of us. And not just that, potential jurors. You can't be throwing all this stuff out there and letting them draw conclusions and make up their own minds and things like that. Like, what's out there, they're already going to have preconceived notions. But if there's too much, you're potentially tainting the jury pool down the road. Hopefully an attorney is able to kind of explain that to them in a way that makes it a little easier for them to find the patience to wait. I know Maddie's family has kind of allowed Kaylee's family to speak on their behalf because Maddie was like a second daughter to them. They said Xana's family said they could speak for her, but they haven't really spoken on Xana much. Ethan's family has been very quiet. They spoke out at the celebration of life, at his service, and the one at the university, and the other one that Xana's family organized. But as far as talking to the press, they've been very quiet. And it's not a bad thing. Everybody grieves differently, though. Maybe their way to grieve is to withdraw and do it privately. And the Gonsalves family's way to grieve is kind of like me. I don't like to be sad. I would rather be mad and angry. And believe me, when I lost my parents, that's kind of how I dealt with it at first. I got mad. I wanted people to blame, you know? I wanted it to be somebody's fault. And especially the dad, Steve, he kind of reminds me of that he's pissed. He wants somebody to blame, and he wants them now. And he's going to do whatever he has to do to fight for his daughter, because he stated he doesn't feel like he can grieve because this person is still out there. And I get that. And when this hits him, it's going to hit him like a ton of bricks. And I'm not one to give advice on this, trust me. My grief it is still a hot mess. But he needs to find a way to deal. I mean, what if this, God forbid, is like Delphi, and instead of taking months, it takes years? He can't hold all that in for that long. So I believe the PI, they said, has 50 years of experience, and he has solved cases even without DNA. So I'm anxious to see what kind of guy this is. Okay, we're going to move on now to, and this is going to be controversial. This, we know, this is Jack D, right? This is him and Kaylee, the on again, off again at the time of the incident boyfriend who shared the dog. And I have questions. Hey, Mama Bear. So I'm going to go back to this again because I can't get past it. This is that look at the celebration of life. Not just the dad looking at Jack, but this shows you how Jack's looking at him. And I just feel like there's something there. I don't think Steve is as on board with 100% backing Jack as everybody else. Jack's hugging the mom, but it's awkward between the two of them. There's something, I don't know if dad's got a bad vibe or if it's just, you know, my daughter broke up with me, or my daughter broke up with you and you have no business being here kind of thing, but it's weird. Very weird. So, this is Jack D's house. The one with the arrow pointing down in relation to Kaylee's house. And we've looked in all my videos, you know, how close everything is. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure Hoodie Guy lives in that apartment building on the other side where they share that parking lot that's kind of behind the house. So everybody's kind of right there, like in the vicinity. And this is the view from one of the windows. I don't know what room it is, but this is in Jack's house. And you can see Kaylee's room with the balcony and everything. And it's just kind of weird. Here he is with Murphy. Now, I don't want to say anything, like, I'm not accusing Jack. I just have questions, like I said, with him and the dad. And then I see how close they were, and we've talked about it, like jealousy, and we know she was moving on. And how did Jack feel about that? Like, she's packing up her stuff. She's graduating, should have been this weekend. She's going to Texas for this new job. She's leaving him behind for a whole new life. And he can sit in his house and watch it all happening. And then we have the phone calls. Now, seeing how close he lives, is it possible they were trying to call him for help? Maybe, but I still feel like, wouldn't they have called 911? Why try him 10 times and not try 911 at all? But my biggest question is, did he call them back in the morning when he woke up? Because remember, he was asleep when they were trying to reach him. Now, if I woke up and I see on my phone somebody's tried to get a hold of me 10 times in a row, the first thing I'm going to do is call and be like, is everything okay? Like, what is going on? Why did you try to call me so many times last night? I would really like to know, how did he react that morning? Did he try to call them or go over there to check on things, to make sure things were okay? I would really like to know the answer to that question. And now we're going to get into the reason this video wasn't done yesterday, the body cam. I don't know if you guys have seen the short clip video that I did before this, but when I saw the body cam video come out, I watched it, a bazillion times, and we see that light, right? In the window where their house is, across from the Sigkai house and the band field. And a lot of people were like, oh, they turned on a light, they turned off a light. Some people said, oh, it's headlights reflecting, things like that. And me, now remember, who am I? I'm just a girl with a YouTube channel. I was like, it's a headlamp. Now I'm going to show you me looking like a complete freaking idiot. This is me with my husband's military issue headlamp on. And on one side it's got the light, and then next to it there's like a red light that comes on. I don't know. But I had heard in interviews that some of the people in the area wear these headlamps when they go out to walk their dogs because it's so dark, which makes sense to me because we have these in our cars in case our cars break down and it's so dark out here. So we can see. We don't have to have our flashlight, or, if the cell phone battery's dead, we got our headlamp, right? And I was like, it's somebody's wearing a headlamp and moving around in the damn house. So I decided to do an experiment. And the reason I did this, I want to give a shout out to Chris at Monsters Under Our Bed. He does experiments all the time, and I was just so curious to see what my results would be, that I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do me an experiment like Chris. So I showed the video to my husband, and he was kind of like, I don't know, maybe. And I was like, okay, well, we're doing this. So I waited for it to get dark last night before the storms came in, thank God. But when it got dark, I turned out all the lights in my house, and we had a huge property, and I made him walk approximately the same distance from our house he walked from our house approximately the same distance that the 1122 King Road house is from Band Field, where the body cam footage was taken. Okay, hope that made sense. I turned out all the lights in the house, and I put on the headlamp. Now, I have blinds on my windows, so I don't know how that affected the light. But he went out there, It's pitch black dark, and he filmed me in front of the window wearing the headlamp. Now, while I'm wearing the headlamp, I'm doing things like turning my head to the side. I'm looking down like if I was attacking somebody, and I'm looking straight at the window, and then I turn around and I leave. Now, when I watch the body cam video, what I see is there is a bright light. Now, could that be somebody had a light on? I thought maybe, turn the light on to put Murphy in the other room, because remember, he was in a different room. But then it doesn't just go off like you flipped off a light. It gets bright, and then it dims, and then it dims, and it's gone. And just something about how the light changes and moves, I don't know why. I just initially was like, hey, it's a headlamp. Hello, everybody. Hello, lighting the way. Okay, so now I'm going to show you my results. Then we're going to go back and look again just so you can compare. If you hear coyotes in the background, I apologize, but there is a bright light. Okay, that little circle, that's me in the house. That bright light is a street light we had installed out here, because you can see how dark it is. We can't see without that. So I'm looking at the window here. You see how bright it is. And then I turn away. Pitch black. And there, it's like from the side. And that's... But do you see what I mean? How it can be bright and then it changes? This is me again. See how bright if I'm looking, but then when I turn away, see how it dims? So imagine, if you will, there, I'm looking at the window, and then I turn like this and it dims. When I turn completely around, it's gone. Now, I want you to know, when I did this experiment, I did not turn the light on or off. It was on. And I didn't touch the button, because you put it on, you click the button, the light comes on. I didn't touch the button, okay? But when I would turn my back to the window, I was still standing right in the same spot. When I turned around and faced away from the window, there was no light going out to the side. There was light going in front of me, but you couldn't see it from his vantage point. So let's look at the body cam video one more time, because I think when you watch it the first few times, maybe you don't notice the subtlety and the change of light. But after you watch it and you know where you're supposed to be looking and you focus in on it, I think you will see what I see, the change in the light. So let's watch it again. I'll keep quiet this time. I won't run my mouth so you can focus. So here we go. So basically what I'm getting at is I could be insane. I probably am. My husband would tell you that I'm absolutely crazy. But I think it's a probability. Like somebody mentioned in the chat, the killer has to have his hands free but needs to see, right? And you can see in my video different ways you move, the amount of light that's coming out the window. So just by simply turning, it's going to affect that light. It's still there, but it's dim. And then when you turn away from the window to leave, it's gone. You don't even have to turn it off. I still had it on. I could still see. I just had my back to the window. So, I don't know. I just thought I would share it with you. I'll show you one more time since we went to all the effort to make this video. My reenactment. Quit it. All right, so enough of my goofy experiment. I hope that's my daughter's door. I'm sorry, I tried to mute the mic before she opened it, but yeah, she was trying to open it slow, and that creak was really loud and long. But yeah, here's some stills from the body cam. The top shows you in the daytime where you're looking, and then the middle is when the light is there, and then the bottom is when it's gone. So now we're going to talk about these weird, I don't even want to say they're rumors, but maybe this is the first floor layout. So you see where the front door is. You've got the bedroom that's right there, and then the other bedroom on the other side. Now, somebody came out, a neighbor, and said that they had seen the front door wide open between 8:30 and 9 a.m. the day the bodies were discovered. And the police chief says that he's not aware of that. Which, for starters, okay, the neighbors said they told the police, so how come he is not aware of what they reported? But if that door was open, how long was it open? And even, let's say it was opened at 8:30, okay? They didn't call police until almost noon. It was below freezing. I think it was 28 or 29 degrees. And look how close that one bedroom is to the front door. Now, even if you've got the heat going, if you've got a door wide open and it's that cold outside, you're going to notice that in your room. I would think both bedrooms, but for sure the one that's really close to the door. So how could the door have been open even from 8:30 to noon, never mind potentially all night, and it not affect the temperature and somehow get the roommate's attention? So I don't know what I think about that one. Let's see. Yeah, I'm getting to that stuff. That's on my list. And then there was a report of a luxury black SUV parked on the street that nobody has said anything about. But the one that is absolutely making me crazy, like my head hurts even thinking about it, is the one that my friend Steph just brought up, the Scream. There's a YouTuber out there who I'm not going to mention, who has repeatedly done this stuff in other cases, and including Gabby Petito, Kylie Rodney, you name it. And it's clickbait. he makes stuff up, and he puts stuff out there that's not verified, that's not true. And most of the other creators that I'm friends with, that I follow, that I look up to, we all agree that it's disgusting, it's despicable, it's just wrong. And there's a story out there now that this neighbor heard a scream at 4 a.m. This neighbor, he was in the interview. I believe it was the first video that I made on this, where where I had the interview with the neighbors, and Jeremy was in it, and then you had this couple, and the one guy said that he got home late that night and it was quiet and he didn't hear anything. And now this neighbor who didn't hear anything like a few days after the murder comes out and says, yeah, it was like unusually quiet and I didn't hear anything. Now, a month later, just magically remembers, oh, at 4 a.m? Yeah, I think I heard a scream. I'm sorry. If the people across the lake from me got murdered and I thought I heard a scream at 4 a.m., I'm pretty sure I would remember that as soon as the police came to talk to me saying, did you see anything or hear anything unusual? It's not going to take me almost a month to remember, oh, while I was home practicing my stick juggling, is what he said, I think I heard a blood-curdling scream. What? And then apparently it was caught on a camera, the sound, which I get. My cameras record video and sound. If there's a murder close enough to you that you can hear something, aren't you going to check your footage and see if you happen to capture anything? Especially since police are going around asking for video footage. And then a month later, hold on. Sorry, my husband just got home. But it's not going to take me a month to find that or have a memory of it. So this clip comes up. I'm sorry, it sounds like a herd of cattle just came in the house because the dogs followed my husband in. So this clip apparently has a dog barking, and then you hear someone say, leave me alone and stop. It's not like what I would consider a blood-curdling scream, but yes, they sound scared. They're like, stop, leave me alone. Now, how does it take you this long to remember that? That is one of my biggest problems with this. You can't go from saying it was unusually quiet that night, I didn't hear anything, to saying I heard a blood-curdling scream. You can't. And if he heard this from the apartment building across the way, the roommates didn't hear it. Now, granted, if it was outside, acoustics, whatever, but I have such a problem with the scream. I really do. And if law enforcement comes out and says, yeah, we have this recording and it's the real deal, fine, I'll believe it. But until then, no. I mean, how easy would it be to create? I just created that headlamp video, right? I could go outside and I could have my dog bark and I could say, leave me alone. Stop. And then I could come in and tell you that that happened during the commission of a crime. It doesn't make it so. So I'm going to leave that one there. That's all I have to say on that subject. But if you watch this person, I would just ask you don't give that particular video, a thumbs up. I mean, obviously, y'all are allowed to follow who you want to follow and like what you want to like and all of that. I cannot support this guy. I have seen too much disgusting, disturbing behavior from him, and this was just like the last straw. Okay. Now, this picture was sent to me, and you can see I put the arrow up there in a question. This is the slider on the back. This is the door that may or may not have been the entry or exit for the killer. And it looks to me like the handle is broken. Now, I don't know, had it been that way, did that happen when the murders happened? If it's broken, would that mean it's unlocked? I don't know. And we know Xana's dad said that he came and fixed a lock, which I'm guessing was for her bedroom. I'm not sure. Like the week before this happened. I'm sure if this had been broken then, surely he would have tried to have fixed it as well. So it's just another interesting thing that when I looked at the picture, I kind of wondered, like, well, how long has it been that way? You know, because we've heard, like, I believe it was Xana's dad said if you got locked out of the front that had the keypad on it, you just walk around and you went in the slider. Is that because this was broken? Or is this something that potentially happened that night? I mean, you got to think this guy's angry and on an adrenaline rush. Breaking the handle off of a door is not out of the question. Okay, this is weird to me. Now, when cops were initially searching and canvassing the area, they were going like all around, like potential places that the killer could have possibly gone. Like, remember, they were looking at, you know, different routes out the back, like up towards that parking area for the apartment behind them. And they went over towards the band field near Sigma Chi. And Steph says hi, babe.
Hi.
He says hi. And they found a jacket. So I'm going to show you this video and then we're going to talk about it a little bit more, okay? All right, so you see, they find this jacket and they pick it up and they're looking at it. Shiloh's here. And they're looking at it and then they just kind of toss it back down, which seemed really weird to me. So this is where they found it. Taylor Avenue is, I've shown you Taylor Avenue before. That's like kind of like the main drag that goes by all the frat houses. You can see where the house is, where the victims were found, and then there's Sigma Chi, and I've got the arrow pointing. That's where they found the jacket. Shiloh. So this is why I found all of this interesting. This is the food truck video, a still. Remember, Maddie was wearing that big oversized black jacket that hoodie guy may or may not have said that he just wanted his jacket back and that she left with his jacket. But do you see what circled that white tag? Okay. Now, here, there's a white tag on the jacket that they found. Now, is it the same? I don't know. It's hard to say because, like, in this picture, it looks bigger, but from the food truck, maybe the way she was standing or whatever, maybe it's not the same size. I don't know. But I found it interesting that they both have this white tag kind of in the same area. So why did they just throw this jacket down? It makes no sense to me. I mean, you see, they look like, oh yeah, we found this jacket. We're interested in this jacket. Let's look at this jacket. And then they're just like, we don't need to take it. Let's just throw it back down. Like, what? I don't get it. This is another one of those things that I'm like, I want to have confidence in law enforcement, but you worry, like, are they making a misstep here? Why didn't they take the jacket? Why would you not take the jacket? I mean, for crying out loud. Okay. And then this, in the thumbnail, it's wrong because I said who was at the house last night. Well, like I said, I was supposed to do the video yesterday. So now it's who was in the house 2 nights ago. So let's take a look at this and then we will talk.
Less than an hour ago, we were here and about 5 plainclothes investigators, we don't know if they're local, state, federal, they were inside and we saw a lot of activity inside the home and the home was lit up. So we were able to peek in some of the windows, but we saw those men inside the home in the 2 particular rooms where the murders took place. We did not see them leaving with any materials. I asked them a couple of times, why are they back? They did not answer me. They pulled away in 2 vehicles. One had a Washington state plate. The other had an Idaho plate. But that is all we can tell you. But we did see a lot of activity. This house was lit up for nearly an hour. They were inside. We don't know why. Nothing seemed to be removed. But as you know, Ashley, yesterday, a lot of the kids' belongings were removed by Moscow police to be returned to their families.
So I'm just watching these guys as they're walking by you. Were you asking them questions and were they effectively just ignoring you? Did they say hello? Did they say anything at all?
Not a peep. And I asked them specifically, why are you here tonight? Why are you here tonight? They did not acknowledge me. So certainly they were on a mission and they left without saying a word.
So, Nancy, I just want to point out the video that we're seeing right now. Let's blow this up full because, and let's replay that if we can too. This is the investigators walking out of the kitchen area into a hallway and then walking towards the living room. So there they are. It looks like they're emerging from the kitchen area, walking towards the front of the house. That grassy sign that's on the wall right there, that's the good vibes sign. There's actually 2 of those signs in the house. It's very confusing. There's a good vibes sign that was lit up in Kaylee Gonsalves's room, and there's also that same grassy good vibes sign right down there that faces the front in the living room. So they're walking out of the kitchen area and walking towards the front of the house in the living room on the 2nd floor there. But that's the first time, Nancy, that we've actually been able to see them at work inside the house.
Right. And looking inside, we did see, you know, so many signs of a typical college life. You know, the items that we saw, red Solo cups. We saw a beer bottle. And there you see the window with the shades drawn, but you see the shadows of them working in that room. But yeah, they were inside. They seemed to be targeted in where they were going and what they were doing, and then they left without a word. even though
Curious
I tried
about
to
the
get
kitchen.
some comments out of them.
Yeah, it's curious about the
Yeah.
kitchen because we're still trying to get confirmation as to whether, the killer entered through that back kitchen sliding door. But, listen, on a crime scene, they're going to look at every inch of that house. I am interested when you said that there was a Washington plate, because the very first thing I thought of when I saw those guys is they don't look local necessarily. And I don't say that because they don't look like they're from Idaho. It just looks like they're moving in a particularly specific way.
Yeah.
And this late in the game, it just screams FBI to me, and maybe an FBI field office that's partially from Washington, maybe an FBI field office from the Idaho area. But did you ask if they were from FBI or what jurisdiction? And they just said, nothing to see here?
Yeah, they would give me nothing. And I did call Moscow police, no answer, no response. So no explanation for any of this, but they were clearly inside on a mission.
All right, so bless that reporter. She's out there covering while Brian Enton went home for a few days, and she's no Brian Enton, but she kind of cracks me up when she's just like, I asked them questions and they wouldn't answer me. Well, it was obvious they were on a mission. They went to the kitchen, they went to Maddie's room, they went to Xana's room. They were in and out within like a half hour, and there's been lots of speculation on who these guys were. Well, in the press release, we know that there were new FBI agents assigned to the case, and some of the Moscow PD have been sort of reallocated. So we've lost some of them, but we've gained FBI. I'm assuming since they had a vehicle with an Idaho plate with one guy in it, and then the vehicle with the Washington plates had the other 4 guys in it, that someone that is in Idaho that was familiar with the scene took the 4 new guys from out of town to the scene. And they probably have Washington plates because it sounds like there's 2 airports. One is kind of a smallish airport, and then one that's like a bigger international type airport in Washington, right across the border. And that maybe that's why they had Washington plates on the vehicle. Like I said, they were very in and out. And if you notice, they were trying really hard to shield their faces, which to me just kind of screams FBI. A lot of people are like, oh, that guy had on a cowboy hat. He must be a Texas Ranger. My husband has a cowboy hat, and he is not a Texas Ranger. I have a cowboy hat. I'm not a Texas Ranger, but whatever. I don't know where they're from. I kind of figure it's FBI, and maybe they have read everything and they've looked at the pictures, but there's nothing quite like going to the scene and actually laying eyes on it to kind of get a feel of, well, just the movement of the killer, right? They were in the kitchen. That's where the slider is. They were in the 2 rooms that we think are where the victims were. So maybe they were just trying to get a feel of, like I said, the movement of the killer, the possible path that he would have taken, how things could have happened, and seeing it firsthand would just make it that much more clear to them in their mind. So I don't know who they were, but that's just kind of my take on it. And thank you, Mama Bear Blue. I try to pick up on stuff that other people aren't. I know a lot of us are just kind of putting the same information out there to you with our own spin on it. But when I see something that's a little bit different, that isn't too far-fetched, I try to bring it to you guys. So I'm glad you appreciate that. Tell your friends. All right, now this post was on Maddie's Instagram. It's from November 11th, which is the night before they went out on Friday, and then they were found on the 13th. There was a formal, and the girls were all dressed up to go to the formal, and these pictures were taken at the house at 1122 King Road, and she posted pictures on Instagram. And then she got this comment on there from My Corgi Stories, and it says she deserved it. Each and every one of them deserved what they got. Karma finally caught up to the horror all of her gang did to that little girl back then, which is awful. And then this guy's like, damn, she was hot. What a waste. That's sick. That is just sick. But my Corgi Stories says, again, you deserved everything that happened to you, especially after what you did to that poor girl. You elitists are all the same. I'll be reserving my spit once they properly bury you. Disgusting. Now, my opinion on the whole My Corgi Stories person, do you remember when I did the video and I showed you the Moscow Slayer account that was on Instagram? He apparently has some obsession with Millie Bobby Brown. And My Corgi Stories is Millie and I can't remember the name of the freaking dog, but I kind of think it may be the same person. I kind of do, but I'm not sure. And then this other person, there's this comment, it's tragic that their parents raised them to be a group of mean girls well into their adulthood. See what happens when you tease the wrong person from the area originally. We all know why it happened. Wow. So there was a lot of speculation going on around there, and people were like, oh, they bullied this girl and she killed herself. And if they are referring to the girl that OD'd, this is coming from her dad, okay? It says, the death of Hannah Clear was confirmed to have been an overdose by the MPD. On Twitter, Clear's father said he has seen the autopsy and toxicology report showing that she overdosed on over-the-counter sleep medication. There was no evidence of foul play. Please respect my daughter's memory, Scott Clear tweeted. I don't think there's a connection. In the press release I read earlier, the police don't think there's a connection between them. But if that's what they're referring to, I mean, that's sick. It's just absolutely like, why would somebody put that on there? The families are going to be looking at these accounts to like remember, the memories. And Mike, it was a knife. They were all stabbed multiple times, and it was in the upper body. It was like the neck and chest area. Right, Cooter? I know. I kind of feel that way too. I don't know, but I just wanted to bring those disgusting comments to you guys. This let me see. Nope, I don't have that one. Hang on just one second. Let me pull something up here that I found that I think is interesting. Maybe, oops, hang on. Maybe you guys won't, but I thought it was, since we're talking about hoodie guy being rich and getting away with stuff. There's this picture that has kind of been floating around that I wanted to put up here just to kind of get your opinion, let you kind of look at it and see what you think. So this picture was that same night, the formal at the girl's house, and a lot of people think this is Jackass hoodie guy from the food truck. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, we know he lives nearby, so I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility that he could have showed up over there. But I just don't know that I can see him well enough to say it's the same guy. But I wanted to put it up here because a lot of people are putting this out that hoodie guy was there on the 11th before this happened on the 13th. So I just wanted to give you guys the chance to make up your own mind about that. All right, moving right along. Yes, Steph, hoodie guy is supposedly in Africa, but we can't verify that. So All right, a couple more things. Hang on here. That done. Okay. Brian Etten did a video of the possible route that the killer would have taken if he was driving. And why I find this interesting is it made me think of my mom. When we were living in Illinois, we lived on a cul-de-sac. And if you don't know what a cul-de-sac is, it's basically like a dead-end street, but it's got a turnaround area on it. And people would always drive down our road thinking it was a through road, but it wasn't. And my mom used to say that the only reason to come down there was if you lived there, if you were coming to visit somebody, or you were lost. And that's kind of the same with where they lived. It's one way in and one way out. And I just wanted to show you this video so you could see what I'm talking about.
So we're on Taylor Avenue right now. This is sort of a somewhat busy road between the Sigma Chi fraternity and where the murder house happened. There's a lot of apartment buildings, houses, a lot of kids going to and from. And then you turn onto this road here, which is King Road. This is actually the road that the house is on. I want to show you because it's dark out, so it's good perspective. But there's houses all over the place, both sides of the street here. Lights on, you see students coming and going all the time, walking around. Not a quiet place by any means, even at night. A lot of snow, dark in some areas, but a lot of traffic. I turn here, we're going to get close to the murder house up here on the right, but you can see houses on both sides of the street again. There's media out here now, but again, normally the neighbors tell me there's a lot of people walking around, not necessarily a lot of cars. You look to the right here. This is the house where the murders happened. Big driveway in front, room for a lot of cars. I'm going to kind of get a little speed here because it's very snowy and icy. People have to go fast to get up the road. But right when you come around the corner here next to the house where the murders happened, there's a big apartment building on the left with at least 20 or 30 units. So again, a lot of people coming and going. Remind you, house where the murder happened is on the right here. And then we come up, I find this very, very interesting. This is a big parking lot, literally right behind the house where the murders happened. This would be a place where, look, I got stuck here. As I was telling you, the snow, it's hard to get up these. Let me see if I can get up. All right, I'm stuck. I'm going to stop for a minute, though. Parking lot, this is a place where someone could have stopped to come and go from the back of the house. A little bit wooded here. Behind the parking lot, but right on the top of that hill. It's not like a forest or anything. There's more houses up there. So this isn't like an area where there'd be a ton of places to hide. Again, a lot of foot traffic, a lot of apartments, a lot of houses. This is how you would have gotten in or out in a car.
Okay, so you can see if this was random, it wasn't so random that they just happened upon this house that night. It had to be like random, like maybe they didn't know him, but he had been watching them for a while, which isn't really random. It's kind of targeted, right? So it's not like it's a house that you would just happen upon. There's plenty of other houses that are more easily accessible. So I thought that was kind of interesting because my mom's right. Like, if you live on that kind of a street, you either live there, you're visiting somebody, or you're lost. And then he did another video of if he walked.
Actually, at the beginning of the show, we showed you how the killer may have drove in, what the roads are like in this area, and there's only one way in and one way out. But if you were on foot, it's easier to get in and out. Not so much from the back, because I showed you at the beginning of the show, there's a wooded area, there's sort of a steep incline back there, and then more houses, and there's these fences. Some of the other houses on the side are fenced in. But if you left the front of the house, you wouldn't have to walk down the road the way we drove in. You could cut through, and this is what a lot of the students do that we've seen coming and going. There's this little walkway that cuts through between a big apartment building and a couple of houses on this side. And this is the way a lot of the kids go to class or go to the fraternity houses. They walk down this little pathway in between the buildings, and they come out to this parking lot right here. So you bypass that whole road that we drove in on, and you end up here in this parking lot, and then you've got access to the main drag here. You've got the field, band field, which we've been talking about, and then there's the Sigma Chi house. So you're pretty much out at the campus just within maybe like 30 seconds by taking that little shortcut, Ashley.
So just the way it's situated, with so much around it, so much in close proximity, if the person lived in the area, I would think they probably just walked. And I still think that maybe you can wear coveralls and take those off, put them in a bag, and walk out and not have blood dripping off of you. I'm not saying that is absolute, but if you planned ahead enough to bring the knife, maybe a headlamp, I don't know. You could have had gloves. You could have been wearing coveralls or something like what hunters wear, and strip that off, throw it in like a book bag or a duffel bag or whatever, and walk out. So I feel like there was planning. It wasn't like he went in there and used a weapon of opportunity. He went in there armed. So on that note, I thought we would end with something funny. This was in one of the groups that I follow about these murders, and somebody posted this, and that's obviously Brian Enton, the reporter, and it says, "Hi all, new here. Can someone tell me if this guy's picture has been seen? He appears to be standing in front of the house. What date was this? Do the cops know? Is he a suspect? Friend? He looks super suspicious." And I just thought that was like, it really sums up kind of the craziness around this case. Obviously we all want it solved, but everybody's a suspect right now. Like, we're pointing fingers in all different directions, and I guess even Brian Enton could be a suspect. He looks sketchy standing in front of that house. So I just want to kind of point it out that we can all be interested in this case. We can all speculate, come up with theories, and even have, people in mind that could be suspects. But we need to keep it reined in, keep it under control, keep at least 1 foot here planted on Earth while we're going into these rabbit holes. And I don't think it was Brian Enton. I don't think he did it. But yeah, so I hope you all are having a great weekend. And I appreciate everything that you guys said for my son and daughter-in-law and their family. It's going to be rough. And when I get off here, I'm hoping to hear from them. They were going to her brother's to be with him and the kids. And like I said, if you guys could send up some prayers for them, I would appreciate it. Like I said, the focus right now is trying to make as normal a Christmas for those kids as we can. So thank you all for spending part of your Saturday with me and getting caught up on all the latest, watching my silly experiment. And as always, I will see you all in the next one.